This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
The management of Aarti Steel has released a statement announcing that it is shutting down operations due to indebtedness occasioned by unfavorable economic conditions and the underhand dealings of fellow players in the industry. As Aarti Steel winds down, it follows in the steps of multinationals such as GK, Procter & Gamble, Sanofi and Kimberly-Clark, who have cited problems such as a weak foreign exchange, increased power costs, reduced consumer purchasing power due to high inflation as the reasons for shutting down business operations. Now, joining us this morning to discuss the health of the Nigerian business environment is the former chief economist at Zenith Bank PLC, Mr. Marcel Okeke. Mr. Okeke, good morning and welcome to the conversation.
Thank you very much for having me again.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
To jump right into this, we've seen a number of companies wind down their operations in Nigeria. Aarti Steel is the latest, and it also follows the announcement of a cessation of operations of ShopRite Enterprises in Wuse in Abuja. Now, they are expecting to wrap up by the end of this month. I wonder if you can speak to us regarding the health of the Nigerian business environment. Why are we seeing these companies shut down?
Well, thank you very much for this question. In your introductory remark, you mentioned the challenges, that these companies face in this economy. Okay? You talked about the hyperinflationary trend. You talked about the volatility in the exchange market, the exchange FX market. You talked about the taxes, tariffs, and so on and so forth. So these situations, or these handicaps, or these challenges you mentioned, are in such dimensions and degrees that we've not seen before, honestly. And so, and they're not giving up. Meaning that the situation is not likely to improve, in the near future. And so that is why these companies, they tell us, that they are going, and they're moving to more clement and more friendly climate. Okay? Right. So, and that is the situation. So, and for me, as an economist, I can also tell you that I have not seen a better, prospect in the near future. Yes, thank you.
So, with this particular situation, what's the actual effect on the economy itself or the Nigerian business environment if these companies continue to wind down their operations?
I must tell you, it's a very, very bad omen for the economy. You understand? Because they're talking about people. The rate of unemployment increasing, people losing their jobs. We are talking about the unavailability of locally produced, versions of the items they normally produce here, because we're talking about, all kinds of imports now being dumped on Nigerians because what's usually produced here can no longer be produced here. We are talking about the shrinking of the economy because the economy, economic growth is driven, by the activities of these companies, especially those of them in the productive sector. Okay, so with so many of them going like that, it's also telling the whole world that Nigeria is not getting weaker, and that is why you must have read that Nigeria, that used to be the biggest economy, is now about to rank the fourth, in terms of GDP in Africa. So that's what it will translate into. The GDP is going to shrink, because these major actors are going, and it is telling the whole world that. Nigeria is just an ordinary market where you come and dump whatever you produce elsewhere rather than producing in this economy. In other words, the Nigerian economy, being a productive one, is in danger. You understand?
Yes.
So that's the process we face. Thank you.
So looking at this situation, a steel player actually shutting down their business, and reading through their statement, they mentioned a couple of things, including the flooding of the market with substandard goods that eventually undercuts their own prices. I wonder if there is a way that we can prevent such shoddy practices and, I guess by extension, improve the business environment to the point where we can see multinationals come back, as well as homegrown industries grow and thrive in Nigeria? Is it possible?
Well, given the key policies of this government, what you are saying now is not possible. You understand? Because the volatility of the exchange, foreign exchange in the foreign exchange market, for example, does not give the companies any space to plan. You cannot plan anything, and you see that the purchasing power of Nigerians has been so weakened that even if they produce at such high cost of production, Nigerians are not in a shape to buy these things locally here. You understand? And so you have cheaper imported versions or substitutes for those things locally produced here. You understand? And so these things that come from outside has a way of displacing the locally produced ones, because the cost of production locally is so astronomical, is so high. And so the cheaper versions come from outside and displace the local ones. And that is what is happening. And because of the low purchasing power here, people tend to buy what is coming from outside. You understand? And so the local ones keep losing out. Okay? So it's not easy for the government to reverse that. You understand? It's something that will be driven by policy. And that policy is not coming now. Because the government has not shown anybody, the blueprint for the development of this economy. What they are doing, are just policies coming up by whims and caprices. You understand?
Mr. Okeke, does this current situation come as a surprise to you? I wonder if this is something that had been forecasted before.
Like I have been saying the past 1 year, where we are today in the economy is an outcome of the key policies of this government, namely fuel subsidy withdrawal or removal and the flotation of the naira. You understand? It is those two policies, they are unintended consequences that has brought the economy to where we are today. Because if you talk about a removal of fuel subsidy, for example, then we are depending almost 100% on imported PMS, for example. And the government is licensing more people to be importing. And that puts pressure on the foreign exchange market. And that is what has driven the naira to where it is today. You understand? And that is why when you want to buy fuel, you can't even find it anywhere. So you have fuel scarcity all the time. And so companies that depend on fuel and diesel, for their operations, they practically pay through their nose, to get those items, for their operations. And so that goes to increase their cost of operation. And there's no prospect that it should come down. Because as we speak, there's no refinery in Nigeria that produces TMS, for example. The Dangote refinery is here to start that. And so on and so forth. I talk about naira flotation. The floating of the naira has crashed the currency to as low as almost 2,000 naira per dollar. Before we got to where we are today at around 1,500 naira per dollar. You understand? And with that kind of exchange rate, where the companies have to be putting their raw material, have to be putting their machinery, and so on and so forth. When you factor this into their cost of operation, it is outlandish. And they cannot compete with imported versions of what they're producing, and so on and so forth. So I'm not seeing any near-term solution to all this.
Right.
Okay?
Mr. Okeke, thank you very much for your time and your expertise on this conversation. Masolo Okeke is a former chief economist at Zenith Bank PLC, and he joined us on Now Breakfast to speak on the closing up shop of Aarti Steel, as well as comment on the trend that we have seen recently where multinationals have wound down operations in Nigeria. You're still on to your Beyond the News station. We ask you to stay tuned. The conversation continues in just a moment.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.